one criticism that is there is that the state has been seen to patronize one community, that Meitei groups like the Meitei Lipun have been allowed a relatively free hand. The amount of arms that have been allowed to be stolen from police stations leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Do you accept that the government there has lost control over the situation? A union minister's house is torched?
Well, I would not want to comment on deeply partisan perspectives which were, shared by the previous panelist. It does no good. But to your point, I think we've debated it ad nauseum that, it was a breakdown of disciplined forces, some of the security forces who sacrificed their disciplinary norms and gave out willingly, or the arms were snatched, more on communal lines, and that is where a lot of Meitei population, which was largely unarmed, took this in their own hands, and certain groups, certain radical elements decided to defend their own villages when the attacks which were started in Churachandpur, as we all know. It's unfortunate. I think the Honorable Home Minister has been pretty clear that in order to lay out the roadmap for peace, it can only start when both the Meitei communities who have picked up arms give up arms, return from wherever they have taken, as well as all the Kuki insurgent groups who were either under the Sioux arrangements get back to the camps, register their arms, or people who have taken up arms get arrested, etc. So ultimately, any kind of a peace can only and only begin when the common people give up arms.
But the Chief Minister, but Rajat Sethi, the general belief is the government has been missing in action. As I said, the Home Minister went to Manipur in end of May. For the first half of May, he was busy in Karnataka elections. The Chief Minister is increasingly under pressure. Today, a Union Minister has gone on record saying Manipur has gone out of control. Do you believe President's rule is a solution? Should the Chief Minister at least offer to step down, since he is now seen as the hate figure, particularly for the Kukis, even though he may be a hero for the Meiteis?
Well, I don't think things operate like this. You've talked about the Honorable Home Minister, and let me tell you, because I'm privy to some of the government efforts that are going on. He has been, every other day, he has been conducting conferences, video conferences with the unified command on the ground. He's been ensuring that he's on top of things. The only thing is that after every such interaction, he doesn't come out and do a press conference to update everybody out there. He's doing his job. He's not publicizing it on a daily basis, but he was there. I can also tell you, even after the current attack that happened on the Meitei people who were resting inside the church, he was the first one to call up, had a meeting with the unified command and ensure that things and law and order fall in place again.
But it hasn't. But it hasn't. There must come a time. There must come a time when there must be an acknowledgement, at least, of the scale of the crisis and an appeal for peace and harmony. Where are these appeals? Should there be greater public appeal? Should more ministers or even an all-party delegation go to Manipur and provide a healing touch, Rajat? Or do you believe that can only happen later?
Well, let that ground be created. Today, the Honorable Governor of the state went into some of the camps to understand the situation from the ground zero, and there were attacks from the militant groups. That very time when she was doing a recce on the ground and trying to understand. So please understand that if all party delegation wants to go there, they're free to go, but let the basic common ground for peace be created in that state. It's a problem wherein unprecedented amount of security has been deployed, central armed forces have been deployed, and they can't go out on a rampage shooting at people. They need to also negotiate every inch of ground, every inch of land that they are trying to dominate on. So it's a constant negotiation. I mean, armed forces will come under a lot of flack if there is any shootout that happens between the armed forces and common people who, for example, are blockading the highway. They can't do that. So there has to be a responsible approach even from the army.
Okay.
So that is one. They need to create some level of peace on the ground before all party delegation wants to come in and do their politics. They're happy to. I mean, they would be happy to.
The fact
this is perhaps not the right time.
Okay. Kaushik Deka, you're hearing these various voices. India Today Northeast brought out also a report which suggested that Kuki militant groups claiming that Himanta Biswa Sarma and Ram Madhav had patronized some of these groups for the 2017-22 elections. You've been tracking this area. It is a maze at the moment. When the Congress was in power, they also struggled. Armed Forces Special Powers Act was there. Militant groups were operating. Then peace returned. What do you believe that these are fault lines that could spread to other parts, including neighboring Mizoram? Should we be very worried, border area of the country, this kind of ethnic violence taking place?
I don't think it will spread immediately, but the sad part is that this fault line means, as Hoinu had mentioned, that this is something even people in Manipur, they haven't watched earlier, they haven't seen such situations earlier. Because as a very senior officer in Indian Army, he told me that this trust has completely broken down, and they don't believe that there would be a repair anytime soon.
But suddenly, why should the trust suddenly break? That's the point. You know, 1 year ago, elections were held relatively peaceful. Now suddenly, the two communities cannot coexist?
As several guests have pointed out, there are several factors. Some are historical, some are current, from the Meitei-Kuki divide, hill and plain divide, to the recent drive against poppy cultivation.
So it's about land rights, poppy cultivation, encroachments.
In Northeast, if you see all the ethnic clashes, you will see that the primary factor is land, the scarcity of land and resources. Obviously, all the northeastern states are very poor. So there is always a pressure on resources, and because of that, those clashes happen. Mainly, they can be defined by different ways, in a sense that this is ethnic, this is communal, this is religious. But at the root of all those clashes are land. Here also, as you know, that the pressure on Meitei land, Imphal Valley, and the pressure also on Kuki areas, how the foothills have become the main playground of this violence. So there are many other factors, some are current, some are historical.
What according to you is the solution? What do you think?
The solution is the goodwill of the politicians. Why it's happening? It's because of the politics. Have you seen anywhere in India that 4,000 arms, 4,000 weapons have been looted? They haven't been looted. It's an open secret that it has been facilitated. And the problem now, Manipur, is that there is nobody Manipuri. Everybody is either Meitei or Kuki in the administration. There is a sharp divide between Meiteis and Kukis, and that's actually creating the problem. Despite the fact that Union Home Minister is monitoring the situation, look at it. There are armed forces. There is APSA in many areas, and the state government, union government, and they are of the same party. So despite all these things coming together, they haven't been able to control. So look at this, the Union Home Minister or the Prime Minister, they haven't been able to protect the house of one of their colleagues, a central minister, and another colleague in the state ministry. So this is something that has been facilitated even by the administration. You will see many victims or many eyewitnesses have said that both forces, state forces or the central forces, they have stood there. They have only said, go, run. They are not protecting.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? That's the question. That's the question. This divide, that communal or ethnic, whatever you call it, that divide is so complete and running deep in the administration.
So you're saying even the administration is divided on these strong...
Administration is divided. That's why it has continued for more than a month. Otherwise, it could have been controlled. I said that there are three forces together: the state administration, the central government, and the armed forces. And despite that fact, it's a small state. It's not a big state. And despite that fact, they haven't been able to control it because they have let arms float in the state.